And that was the kind of the joy in a way of the film is in the first 10 or 20 minutes you kind of know you think you know whose side you're on, but as it goes on it kind of questions whether or not you should even be picking a side.
This to me is the biggest message in Three Billboards, a movie where we follow a grieving mother trying to avenge her deceased daughter, only to do despicable things herself. It's a movie released at a time where people like choosing one side and sticking to it like we're playing in sports teams or something, where some don't question whether they actually believe everything in that side, but they definitely would never agree with the opposite side, even if they stated that the grass was green. It's not to say you can't lean one way, obviously not. It's just scary when people don't question their own actions because they think they're doing it out of righteousness, something both groups tend to blame each other for.
To a large degree, Frances is the hero of the piece, but a lot of what she does in the film is not really defensible, especially as the film goes on.
It also causes a lot of the destruction in many ways.
Yeah. From a place of sort of righteousness and rage, but it's still destructive, as you said.
The movie plays with expectations, having it be one thing when you go in, another halfway through, and then be completely different by the end of it.
You think you know whose side you're on, but as it goes on, it kind of questions whether or not you should even be picking a side.
If you were to side with Mildred in the beginning, then you'd also be stuck siding with her burning down a police building, showing you that while you do want to sympathize with her, her anger eventually pushes her to an edge where she's not even getting positive results. In fact, she almost burns her own daughter's case file because she's been blinded with vengeance. If you were to judge Willoughby from the beginning, then you would miss his entire backstory and the character of a man who did want to do the right thing, but cancer ended him short. Even with Dixon, who, let's be clear, man is a scumbag and you don't like him even after the credits, but you see a progression and remorse that leaves it up to the viewer to decide if we're willing to accept a person's change or not, even when the characters in the movie don't. I think it's a movie that asks us to question who we stand with and why, but more than that, to actually reach out and understand the people who we think we don't like. To take the time to see other perspectives, not because of the trope that we should all just get along, but because a lot of people want to be heard, but not a lot of people want to listen. Now, I wrote that bit about 3-ish months ago when I first saw the movie, and I still stand by it mainly because, well, the director said in an interview that that's kind of like why he made the movie. But what I find very interesting is when you see a movie and you kind of want to dissect the themes, everything that's within the script, but then there's a whole other aspect to it. There's a whole other side, and that's what the audience gets when they watch a movie. And it's been very interesting with this one. I get that a lot of people are very iffy with the idea of sympathy, and by that I mean the idea that when you tell someone to, walk them out in another person's shoes, to see something from their perspective, the first thing they jump to is, are you trying to sympathize a neo-Nazi? You get other people going, are you trying to sympathize with a gang leader or something like that? It's like, whoa. No, we're talking about the everyday person. We're talking about our everyday exchanges where we automatically assume that other people are out to get us, or that we assume the most negative thing of them instead of getting to know them. I bring up an example of when I was in New York a couple of months ago, or really not that long ago, in where there was 6 Asians who were waiting to be seated at a restaurant, and my girlfriend and I went there as well. And if you know how restaurants work, if you're just a person or a duo, you get seated faster because those seats open up faster. But when you're a bigger group, you gotta wait a bit longer. What I noted was that these 6 people got really upset when they had to wait, and they not only stormed out, but they made sure to yell out that the establishment was racist to Asians because they weren't seated in time. Another situation was when I was at Walmart and a woman went up to a guy to ask about an item, and the guy's like, sorry, we're all sold out. And she got really upset, and as she stormed away and passed right by me, she very loudly uttered the fact that that guy was a racist mother. Forget the fact that you can get mad as a human being, no doubt about it. If your Instapot that you've been waiting for months continues to get sold out, of course you can be upset. But these situations that I keep seeing, and I see them in real life, and you see them all the time on the internet, to automatically turn something from being upset to a race issue, I don't get it. Are there problems dealing with race? Of course there are. I know some of you are going to be quick to jump, oh, you think it's... No, there are definitely problems out there. What I'm saying is the problem is that when we're creating our own, and then you have the real bigots looking down on us going, They're fighting each other, they're doing the work for us. Like, I'm really trying to understand what the word even means anymore because it's just becoming an insult that makes no sense. If you were to call somebody racist, then what you're saying is that that person doesn't like minorities at all. In fact, they want them to just completely disintegrate. They don't care for them at all. They wish that they just didn't exist. They don't care about anything that they have to say. So why would you calling them a racist insult them when they don't care what you have to say? In fact, we end up seeing a lot of situations where it's misinterpretations or assuming someone's intent. Lord forbid we ask them what they actually meant with a tweet. No, we just start arguing with each other, and it's like we're creating our own problems when really we're all supposed to be on the same side, hopefully. I bring this up because it not only goes with the themes of this movie, but because the film itself, about a grieving mother who's trying to get justice for her daughter, is being viewed differently by a group of people. It's being viewed as the redemptive story of a racist cop who gets absolved at the end. Now, I want to look at this a bit different. See, a couple of months ago, I made a video about the movie Detroit, and the video's still up, so you can go check it out. But I bring that up because I said an opinion, a couple of opinions in that video, and a lot of people really took it the wrong way, and I understand why, in a sense. I get that we are so on edge to the point that we feel that anyone who says anything, we're going to get upset because we feel like a lot of people are out to get us, and that could be the point for a lot of people. But the thing is that there's many times interpretations that happen. Like, you can reach your hand out for someone with the intention to help them up, and they may slap it and say, "What do you think? I need your help? Like, I'm too pathetic to do that?" What happened with this video is that I had two things that I covered. One of them being the situation with protests. And my thing was that I thought we had all learned back in the 3rd grade that fighting fire with fire gets you nowhere. Like, we've gone to a point where we think violence, I guess, is the issue, or we think, hey, the best way to get away with whitewashing is to do our own brownwashing. And while I get that that may get you results to a certain point, if you do expect it to work out, then are you not at a certain point doing the same thing that you were blaming the evil white man for doing that caused them to be on top to begin with? Like, I don't know. It's, if you have a response to it, definitely let me know. But what ended up happening was that while I brought up the fact that, hey, maybe burning down buildings isn't the best way, those people who told me that I didn't understand it, they then talked about this movie and how Mildred's character burns down a building, and that's the most idiotic thing you can do. That's what I was saying. Like, when you burn down a building, it's helping them. They have insurance on it. What ends up happening is you're just hurting more innocent people whose buildings may be nearby. I personally felt it didn't help. The second thing that I wanted to cover, which again goes with this movie, was an idea that I brought up that I know people took it a different way, and that was the idea of making something of ourselves. Not make something of yourself so that the white man can be happy with you. It was make something of yourself so you don't have to deal with anybody else or depend on anybody else. Some people saw it as me talking down to them, even though it's advice that I myself follow for myself. And they ended up just repeating back to me the same thing I said, but I get it. We see things differently, which is why I want to cover this scenario here is as a bit more of a discussion, because the thing that's happened here is that people really do see this movie as racist propaganda that sympathizes with a bigot, and I honestly don't think that that's what it is. So while I'm curious to know why some of you may think that, I'm going to break down why it can't be. Because one, he's a supporting character, not the main. Second, I don't believe he was ever redeemed. If you watch the movie, you would notice that he does a bunch of terrible things, and nobody likes him by the end of it. In fact, the thing that I brought up with Detroit about making something of ourselves so we don't have to depend on anyone else, when the black chief comes into this movie and just straight up fires him, just the look on his face when he realizes he's not in charge anymore, it's one of the best parts of the movie. Not only does the guy lose his job, not only does the guy end up getting burned and he's like that for the rest of his life, but when he does try to make a change, it doesn't even go all the way well. Even at the end, some people are saying that the main character, Mildred, takes him in when that's not what happens. If you're watching the movie, you know that she's only with him because the dude owns a gun and the dude has a lead on who the suspect may be. She does not care for him at all. So again, I bring up that idea of watching a movie but purposely going into it and trying to see it from a perspective of getting mad. Because the people who made these movies are like on the same political spectrum as the people who are complaining about them. Like, is this just a story that you're trying to make to get angry with it? Or is it even worse, going online and seeing that the people complaining about this movie haven't even seen the movie? And look, you can hate the film. Hate it all you want. That's completely fine. I don't even think it's the best movie of the year. I don't even think it should win. The only thing it should be winning is Best Actress because she does a phenomenal job. But I'm with the rest of you. I think he's a scumbag character. I don't think there's a redemption arc there. I don't think it's one of the best movies of the year. But if you're complaining about it without even watching it, then you're part of the problem. The irony is that you're doing exactly what the movie's telling you not to do. Remember last year when La La Land and Moonlight were going head to head at the Oscars, and some people liked both, some people liked one over the other, but then there were the people who chose one over the other because they turned it into a race war where it had to be white versus black? Yet the people who made both movies loved each other? I don't know if that's the case here because Three Billboards is supposed to be like the front runner for the Oscars, so people have to make a negative story for it. Maybe if Lady Bird was the one that was the Oscar frontrunner, then it would be this story about white privilege, or any of the other movies they would create some sort of, storyline to go with it that's negative. I don't know what it is, but looking at the reaction that people have had, again, I don't think the story, if you watch the movie, is a story redeeming a racist. But it makes me question how we handle that in real life. I'm assuming that there's two ways for this particular problem to get fixed. If there is a racist person, you're either expecting them to change or to die. So if a lot of people are saying that a racist can't have a redeeming or, just be able to change, then are we saying that they need to die? Look, I agree that he doesn't get redeemed in this movie because he doesn't do enough. But in real life, if someone makes that change, if someone truly tries to change, are we not going to accept them? If I'm noting here, and the whole point of this video is that we're so busy picking sides that we even start fighting amongst ourselves, how badly are we stopping the change that we want to come forth? Pretty much every week I get an email or a DM, whatever it is, calling me a racist because of an opinion that I gave on a previous video. And what's funny about it is that many times it's them yelling at me, and they're yelling back the exact same thing I said in the video, but I'm Mexican, but they always assume that I'm white. Or whenever I'm saying the opposite, I'm saying something more liberal, then I'm accused of being darker. And again, the same opposite, I'm accused of being... It doesn't matter what you say. Usually you would think that if you're saying something logically, that you would have a logical discussion. But amongst all the hate that I get every single time, and I don't bring it up all the time, but it's always there, there's always those people who reach out and they go, hey, what you said seemed pretty wrong to me. Do you mind explaining? And we end up having this thing called a discussion. And I'll be the first to say it. I'm not a person who thinks that my opinion has to be high and mighty. I give my opinion, but I have learned a lot from a lot of you who, not only in the comment sections, but those of you who have reached out to me and have given me your perspective. And I've learned a lot from it because we've had a thing called discussions. Some people like to be angry. That's fine. Angry can be entertaining. Anger can get some things done. That is not the way I see it. And for me, I would rather promote the things that I want change for, not complain that it's not happening, but see where it is happening and try to push it forward. Spend my money, a lot of money, on projects from people who I believe should be in the spotlight, from people who others complain aren't there yet. I'm there trying to support them. I'm there trying to cover those things. Some people say the only way to fight bigotry is to come out and, say a phrase like, Trump is racist, Trump sucks. And because I have never said that in a video, supposedly that makes me a racist. Trump sucks. Nothing happens because I said that phrase. In my opinion, I think it takes all of us to work together and not be arguing with each other in order to really make that change that we want. But it seems like those people who keep claiming that they want peace would rather have their hashtags trending instead.
Because I think sometimes when there's a crime film and things are solved, you don't have to think about it anymore, and it's almost pointless. But this, it being open-ended, it leaves a lot of questions about, where they're going, what they're going to do, how much they've changed is the most important part, I think, throughout the film. they're so different at the end than they were at the beginning. And those questions to me are much more important than a simple solution.